Bad Times at the El Royale is written and directed by Goddard, who is probably best known for Cabin in the Woods, in addition to writing the screenplay for The Martian. Bad Times had a fair amount of hype leading up to its release, as it just looked incredibly stylish, and seemed to harken back to the 90s era of indie directors, like Paul Thomas Anderson or Quentin Tarantino, where it indulged in the dark side of its time period, and wasn't afraid to pull punches where violence was concerned. In addition, it seemed like Chris Hemsworth was about to pull off one of his best performances to date. It just seemed completely different to what we were used to seeing him in, and of course Chris had worked with Drew on Cabin in the Woods. Bad Times doesn't quite live up to the hype of the trailers, but it does have some enjoyment to it, and I'd say it's worth checking out, especially if you're looking for something that wants to be Boogie Nights or Pulp Fiction. Bad Times revolves around these 7 people who are all runaways in some way, happening to stay at the El Royale Hotel on the same night. Each person has a dark secret about themselves that they are hiding, while the El Royale Hotel itself happens to have a dark and shady past as well. And we spend the movie trying to unravel these different secrets, before Billy Lee, played by Chris Hemsworth, terrorizes the hotel. The movie starts off great. We have a fascinating mystery set up at the beginning, about something that had happened in the past at the hotel, and that inciting incident drives the rest of the movie forward. Unfortunately, the movie is unable to stick the landing with the mystery, taking far too long to come up with a pretty average twist that doesn't do the stellar first half any favours. The movie relies quite a bit on flashbacks and fancy title cards to flesh out our characters' backstories. Some character flashbacks are more interesting than others, while some are saved for more crucial moments in the plot. They do a fairly nice job of revealing why the characters are the way they are, and what they're running away from. However, some of the more interesting characters in the film end up getting shortchanged, and you're left wanting a little bit more out of them. John Hamm's character in particular is one I thought could have been fleshed out a little bit more, rather than just servicing a particular part of the plot. Bad Times can be a little heavy-handed with its foreshadowing as well, whether it be one of the film's numerous needle drops, giving hints at what's to come, or characters flat out saying things like "do not interfere," can usually make for a pretty good guess about where this character is going to end up. The cast are all a bit hit or miss as well. We've got some great performances from Jeff Bridges, John Hamm, and Cynthia Erivo, while it ended up being a bit mixed on Chris Hemsworth's performance. He starts out very strong, and at times feels like he's emulating Heath Ledger in The Dark Knight, but something happens with the character, and the enigma surrounding Chris and the character just drops off, so he just becomes kind of forgettable. There is certainly a point made about what happens with the character and why there's a sudden switch, but all the momentum and interest in Chris's performance just goes out the door. His Aussie accent does slip in and out every now and then too. Dakota Johnson is the weakest of the bunch. She just doesn't have the acting chops, at least to the level of everyone else in the cast. Often her deliveries feel a bit forced, like someone trying a bit too hard to be cool. She just doesn't quite fit the femme fatale archetype and felt miscast, whereas a Jessica Chastain could knock this role out of the park. The movie is stunning though, where a lot of time is spent on elaborate one-take tracking shots, a la Paul Thomas Anderson, who was inspired by Orson Welles. The hotel is also split between 2 different states, so there is a lot of emphasis on symmetry in the shots from cinematographer Seamus McGarvey, which does help highlight the two-sided nature of our characters. Bad Times is a movie that bites a bit more than it can chew, and perhaps if 20 minutes had been cut out from its 140-minute runtime, we may have had something a bit more concise, as despite all the style, humour, and excellent late 60s music in the film, the plot simply lacks the substance to fill out that runtime, and you might end up checking your watch more than you'd like. Sadly, the payoff just isn't as good or as interesting as the setup of the mystery seemed to suggest. There are entertaining things here for sure, and it's certainly worth giving a go if you were excited for it, or if you happen to find it on Netflix one day, and there's absolutely some performances worth checking out here. So you never know, this could eventually turn into some cult hit, but for now, it's just fine. Bad Times gets a 6.2 out of 10 from me. Guys, I hope you liked this review. If you want to see more reviews just like this one, stay right here for your mono fix. Bye guys.